This is day one. It's been day one for a while now. A day in this sense is not a 24-hour period. A day is just my own period of growth and enlightenment. And I decided to go ahead and do a video blog of it for myself, for my own records. If you want to watch it, watch it. It's going to be extremely boring. There's really no reason you should care, but I care. So here we go. Day one. What was day zero? Day zero was when I realized I had lost everything. Everything that mattered to me. My house, my job, my position in the community, my children, my wife. I was, for all practical purposes, I was Job. Have you considered my faithful servant Job? Let me take everything from him. Yeah. So, okay, I didn't understand. I don't know that understanding is really anything that's ever going to come of it. And I don't know that that's important anymore. But I got through it. Day zero was a long period. Here we are, day one. And I've realized I was at day one for a while now. I thought that it meant that I would proceed to day two and day three and everything quite rapidly. And that's not actually the case at all. And here's what I know so far about day one. I'm coming to terms with what it means to start over, why I want to start over, how I want to start over, and what would be the best possible outcome of starting over. Best possible outcomes. Let's talk about that for a moment. Because day zero was the result of some decisions that were made that weren't necessarily the decisions that I would expect. Not necessarily the decisions I would like to have made. But I've come to two realizations about that. One is about expectations, and we'll get to that in a moment. The other is that I believe that every sane person, when faced with a decision to make, a situation to address, every sane person will make the best possible choice that they are capable of making. It would be crazy to make the second best possible choice. Therefore, I don't have to understand the choice, and I don't have to like the choice. I have to believe and understand that it was not possible to have a better outcome. Therefore, that's the one that we have. And when you realize that, there really can't be any bitterness in that, because you become grateful that it was at least possible for the outcome to be that good. And that the decisions that were made at least fell as well as they fell, however they fell. So, yeah, I believe that when day zero happened, that was the best possible outcome, where the decisions were the best possible made with the tools available and with the skills that were learned on how to use those tools. And that goes for her, and that goes for me, I believe. It has to. It's not what I believe. It has to be the case. So I ended up here in Tennessee. And I think a lot of people question that. And I've spent a lot of time defending that decision and justifying it. And I don't think I need to do any of those things, because I was faced with a situation that I needed to address. and I made the best possible choice given the situation I was facing, the tools I had available, and the skills that I had acquired on how to use those tools. So I ask that people at least try to understand that, and I understand that now of all parties. So, that being said, expectation. I said that the decisions that were made, the outcomes that came of it, were not what I would expect. Well, there's my problem. What right do I have to expect anything? And as soon as I do expect something, I leave myself prone to disappointment. And I think most people are going to view this as a very pessimistic view, but I actually view it as quite optimistic. If I don't have expectations, I can't be disappointed. So does that mean that I just, wallow in mud and feel like, yeah, that's what I'm going to be now? No, not at all. I believe that I can still have requirements for things that don't involve my personal happiness, my personal satisfaction. They can be requirements for things that involve my health, my safety, the health and safety of others. And I think those requirements are valid. They are tied to survival. You don't survive very long if you live in an environment that is not healthy and not safe. So, yeah, I'm going to start with very, very simple. I'm going to start learning how to not have expectations of the things right now in my very solitary life. And I have a very solitary life right now on purpose because it's simple, and simple is good. I thought at first that it would be it's simple and I can control simple. But no, the truth is I can't even control simple. I can't control much, if anything. And when I have expectations or when I feel the need to control, well, then I start to manipulate. And we all do. That's human nature. When we feel that we expect a certain outcome and that outcome is not forthcoming, then we look for ways to manipulate to produce the outcome. And therein lies the problem. So, the things in my very solitary life right now are meals, transportation, shelter, livelihood. I think right now that's about it. That's certainly what I'm aware of. So I'm going to realize that I have requirements of those things to keep me healthy and safe. I have requirements of my meals to be healthy and be nutritious and feed my body. I have requirements of my transportation to get me where I need to be reliably and to not expose me to harm or danger. I have requirements of my shelter. I have requirements of my livelihood. I have requirements of my own performance in my livelihood. What I need to not have is expectations. If I have expectations of a certain meal, I go into it being set up for disappointment and failure. If I have expectations of my shelter, my transportation, what am I going to do? Get upset with them when they don't perform? Damn you, bike, why do you have a flat tire or a dead battery? That's silly. I require that it be reliable. So therefore, when we have a problem, like a dead battery, we'll certainly look to address the situation and get it back to conform with those requirements. But I can't say, oh, I expect air in that tire. You better deliver air in that tire. No, that's silly, and it's as silly to expect it out of an inanimate object as it is to expect it out of anything. So we'll move on to relationships with things outside of my little solitary world. That'll probably be day 2. But right now we're on day 1. And I need to learn to stop expecting the world to be a certain way. And I need to learn to focus on the things that produce health and safety. And I do need to look at the two-way street of what are the requirements on me of those things. I won't have shelter if I don't fulfill my obligation of paying the rent, if I don't fulfill the requirement of the upkeep on the place. I won't have livelihood if I don't actually perform the work duties. So responsibilities are a two-way street. And eventually those responsibilities and work duties are going to spill over into relationships with other people. But I'm not really wrapped my head around losing expectations of other people yet. So I'm not nearly ready to discuss requirements of relationships. So anyway, that's that. Personal note, I've been attending meetings that ask that I have a relationship and trust in the God of my understanding. And that's been a problem for me for several weeks because I had no God of my understanding. The God of my understanding, in my opinion, let me down. I had developed a relationship with the God of my understanding over the past 20 years, where I had expectations. There's the problem. Do you see where I went wrong? I had expectations. I had expectations that I would do certain things, God would do certain things. We would shake hands and agree that yes, it's a good and happy, wholesome relationship. We both performed our duties and met our expectations. I call bullshit, because if I just go with that, then I have no explanation for what happened, because I know that I performed to my best ability and my best understanding of what I thought were expectations on me, and yet it still didn't work. So yeah, I definitely am at odds with that God. And then the things that followed from there were fairly distasteful and led me down a path of, yeah, that's not a God that I would want. How could anybody want a God that can be so heartless and cruel to so many people? So anyway, that was a bone of contention in my meetings, and I realize now that my understanding is going to be more discipline and understanding, more so than faith or hope in some vague notion. So yeah, there's that. I do hope that this helps me progress very well there, and I'll be documenting that as well. So, well, that's it. If you have been watching, I'm sorry. And I'll get better at this. I'll get more comfortable with this, and I'll do it again soon.